It's really great to see everyone here. I think a year ago, this was unimaginable, right? 700 companies. Really, a shout out to PLANETech. I think this could have not been even imagined a year ago, and I think in the last 2 months they've been working hard to get everyone together. So thank you, everyone at PLANETech. I want to give them a round of applause, please. We've been hearing a lot about climate optimism, but how many of you are climate anxious? I'm a 30-year-old, and I have to say that sometimes reading the news is a bit challenging, right? We used to talk about the weather for chit-chat. Now it's not so much a nice chit-chat experience, and I think that that calls for a sense of urgency. It means that we have a lot more responsibility. This is not a cyber conference, a fintech conference. This is not an investment conference. This is how we are going to create an action plan for ourselves, our families, our communities, our cities, our country, and our species. This is unbelievable. It means that we need to come with much more humility. And the VC world, I'm not really in an investment track record, 20 years with banks and family offices. I'm a newcomer, 2 years at Firstime Ventures leading climate investments. And I can tell you that here we don't compete. Competition is also going to kill us. We need to collaborate, we need to work together. So I invite every investor, every entrepreneur, anyone here is looking to learn, to reach out, to ask us how we can help, how we can assist, how we can provide guidance. We don't know a lot, but we can provide some connections and some ideas and maybe a tip that will help along the way. So I really hope that we can learn more about collaboration rather than just competition. So thank you so much. And I hope that today is just the beginning of a heritage, of a yearly conference. I don't want to create more anxiety to the PLANETech team, but I hope that we'll see each other again next year. And thank you for the Rabin Center for hosting us. So here with us, we have Idan Mor, Investment Director of the Climate Fund from HSBC. We have Lozek visiting from Germany from Future Energy Ventures, a veteran investor in energy tech and climate tech. And we were prepared and everything. So we have a list of questions that I'm going to present for our panel, and I'm going to participate from time to time. So I want to start with Jan. We all emerge from different organization types, utility or finance or policy. What was your driving force to establish a climate tech fund?
First of all, thanks, Itamar, for being here. It's amazing. It's a big event, climate tech in Israel. And I think we have, before I'm starting to answer your question, I think there are two really interesting points. 65% of emission reduction comes from already developed hardware technologies. So we've heard it before and in two panels. And that's a great optimistic sign. So battery technologies, EV vehicles, renewable technologies, EV charging infrastructure. If you just ramp that up now, we can get there, and that's the good news. And why we are in Israel? Because what's needed is technology. We need a lot of technology in future for the energy system, because we need to run it differently than in the past. We need to use software technologies for running our vehicles, for charging them, for selling our energy into the energy system, and so on and so forth. And that's why I'm here, because I have a track record in 20 years of the energy business, and I have seen the good, the bad, and the very ugly one. And since 2016, I'm running the largest energy transition fund with focus on software technologies. We have invested here in Israel, North America, and in Europe more than 51 companies, which all unifies one thing, which help the energy transition to materialize, to get closer and closer to the net zero target, and we will get there.
How about you, Idan?
So thanks, Jan, and welcome. I think the word collaboration is something that means a lot. I think, we are here to collaborate on investments, and I think we can enjoy from Jan's experience and from your excitement and the spirit that you bring to investments, which is great, and we all bring different perspective. Investing in climate tech is not easy, as we all know, because it involves a lot of verticals that are very different from each other. We started the journey of investing in climate tech about 15 years ago when I was part of Evergreen Ventures. That was a generalist fund, and we allocated 10% to climate tech. What did we know about climate tech? Almost nothing. We learned by making investments and making mistakes. We learned that we didn't have the urgency in the market for our solutions. That was PLANETech 1.0. And we didn't have the expertise. So what we tried to do in our next fund, and that's when I joined an energy fund in London, working for an energy company, is to focus on energy and understand the supply chain, the sales cycle, the problems that the energy sector had. And going through the issues that the energy sector went through, which were deregulation, decentralization, the introduction of renewable into the mix, changing demand and supply of energy, suddenly created a lot of sense. And with that came the understanding that climate is part of the equation. So that was a big window to climate issues that we're facing and how energy can help us to mitigate climate risk. Now, looking at energy, this is only small part of the climate tech problem that we have, because energy is contributing about 27% to carbon emission. The rest is transportation, agriculture, food production, and industrial operation. And trying to focus on all of them is very hard. So when we decided to build up a climate tech fund, 100%, as Uriel said, 100% climate tech fund, we had to set the boundaries for the strategy, the verticals that we're going to focus on. So we're focusing on energy, which we know very well, transportation, supply chain, decarbonization, and mitigation of climate tech risks. Focusing on mainly companies that can contribute directly or indirectly to reduction of carbon and sustainability. And building that fund, actually we're leveraging the experience that we had from before. We are a team of 3 founders, one in Israel, that's me, the other one in London and one in New York, and we're covering multi-geography investments. And with that, I think the one thing that changed dramatically from 15 years ago is the market. There is no doubt that we need a solution for what's happening with the climate. There is a deadline. If we don't meet the deadline, temperatures will go out of control and we're all going to suffer. And there is demand from the market. We're seeing a lot of corporations that are declaring net zero pledges. HSBC just announced that by 2035, we're going to be net zero from operation and supply chain. We're phasing out for thermal coal. Corporations like Microsoft, Amazon, Google all have pledges for 2030 being net zero. States like California declare that by 2035, I think, they're not going to allow sales of combustion engine cars. So quite amazing, from 15% penetration today to 100% within about 10 years. That's a dramatic change in supply chain, in infrastructure that need to be built. And we're looking for all the wonderful entrepreneurs that can come and build those solutions. I think there's plenty of opportunity for startup, and that's the market pool that we're seeing that will be so wonderful.
Thank you. You know, one of the problems I'm facing is focus, right? There's so many issues: regenerative farming, carbon sequestration, renewable development. There's so many different, there's hundreds of different verticals you can look into, because climate change and climate technology is a paradigm, right? It's not a vertical. We're talking about the largest industries in the world with a mission to decarbonize every industry. It affects everything we do on this planet, and even with some companies outside this planet. So my question is that, how do you focus on your work? How do you decide which vector or investment vertical to focus on? Jan?
Yeah, happy to start. So we are focusing on the energy system. However, the energy system in future will look absolutely different than it looks today. Just imagine that buildings will produce their own energy with with solar panels on the rooftop, with battery technology, with e-vehicles and so on and so forth. So for us, the energy system is something like a digital interconnect system, which connects everything what we have at hand in our homes, in cities and in streets. So we are focusing then on any kind which helps this new energy system to materialize. That are many technologies. So if you look at our technology we've invested into, you would say they are doing everything, but our focus is really for the purpose of the energy system as such.
What do you think, Idan?
So, Itamar, if you would ask me how I feel today, I will tell you, so and so, I feel okay. But if we ask the world, how does the world feel? I think the answer would be tons of data that can be collected on temperatures, on chemicals, on carbon, on whatever can be measured. And I think the answer to the focus question that you asked is, what tools can we provide to gather data, to analyze data, to make smart decisions based on the data that we collect on our world, and what are the predictive measures that we can take in order to prevent or get prepared for unprecedented events like temperature rise or droughts or any other events that are surprising us. So any startup that can take this data and leverage that and provide information or insight that somebody is willing to buy is of interest to us.
Yeah, but I think it's quite evident that data in climate is the low-hanging fruit, but obviously we're facing a hardware problem, right? A lot of the VCs are more familiarized with software investment. It's more scalable. The margins are great. Everything's fantastic. Look at the last 20, 30 years of software investments. Obviously, this is where most of the money in VC world has been made, but we don't have a software problem. We have a hardware physical problem. Jan, what are your thoughts on that?
Thanks for sharing here, Mr. Mike. I think you are totally right. We need all this new hardware solutions. Cement was a topic. We talked about hydrogen and all this amazing new technologies. But what's the focus today and what's the problem we need to solve right now? We need to solve right now the problem that we do the first big step. Given hardware technologies, we can save 65% of our emissions. So my focus is using technology for making that happen. And if you think about hardware technologies and our experience, Idan and mine, it takes just more time for commercialize them, for develop them, and so on and so forth. So you need 10, 15, 20 years for bringing hardware technologies which are today new into the market. And I think it's important that we focus on that. But the focus of my team and myself is just the aspect that the next 10 years will be a software play in the industry for just connecting and setting up the system. And then we will onboard hydrogen solutions, other battery technology solutions, other hardware solutions in order to get to net zero. But this is then 25, 26, 27. So our horizon is 5, 6, 7 years and making now the big step.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we're facing is that funds have to be kind of master of none, jack of all trades, right? We need to learn, we need to move one day from farming to algae, to water technology, to plastic, to cement, and it's very hard. You can't find real funds that could be experts in all these fields. How do you meet that challenge of working with outside advisors, of understanding how to reach out to scientists or how to work with different industry players? How do you do that in your fund, Idan?
I think, first of all, you need to be curious, right? If you're not curious, I think you'll find it hard to learn new topics and new verticals. And I think the fact that we can collaborate is something that brings the multiples to our ability to invest. So if you're an expert in agtech, and I'm potentially looking at agtech investment, and I come to you and ask your opinion, and I look at the experience that you gathered through your last 3 investments in agtech, I think we can all benefit, and I will learn much faster. So that's one way of doing it. We have to understand that every new topic that we're facing is totally new, and we have to learn fast. We don't need to be the experts, but we can use the help of experts to help us. So within the community that we have a community of researchers, we have a global research team in HSBC that helps us, and we can learn quite often working with them. And we have a lot of resources out there that can help us. We just need to be open, curious, and share information.
Yeah, the climate tech investment book is actually being written as we speak. So we need to be much more transparent. And I think that, if you look at the old tech VC world, it wasn't such a transparent world, right? A lot of secrets, a lot of hiding. And I think right now it's going to be a challenge to move from that mindset to a more transparent and open and collaborative environment. But I think you talked about that 2/3 of the technologies we need to reach climate goals already are already invented, and what we need is to scale them. So how does that work with the current state of the global economy, where cash flow is minimized, where interest rate is going up, where people are much more careful than what was a year ago, right? I see companies that their valuations have been halved in 6 months. It's crazy. So how do you react to that? Because we are in an environment right now that's much more cautious, but we need to be taking risks in order to scale these technologies. Jan?
Yeah, happy to start. Renewable investments or investments in renewable backed funds, it's already a commodity and that will stay. Returns will go up or will go down. But we have heard the figure before. We need to multiply by 5 times our investments into renewable assets in the next few years. So next year or the year after, we don't have time for that. So I think, and there's a broad consensus between politicians, entrepreneurs, investors, that this will happening for sure. And the market is still quite bullish on that option. If you talk about impact strategies right now in the investment market, that's a mainstream strategy, isn't it? So last year, we've deployed 800 billion euros into the market. Next time,
In
2 or
Europe.
3. Yeah?
In Europe.
Absolutely. So, but what I see really, it's more on the later end of startups right now. If you're thinking about Series D, Series E, later stage rounds, there we have a complication. The complication is fewer IPOs, fewer trade sales, lower valuations, and that's not good for the industry as such. However, if you look into the market, all the startups we have invested into, they are growing their customer side. They are selling more heat pumps, they are selling more PV, they're selling more technology in order that private homes and cities become autark from large utility giants or from crazy Russian governments or. So we see a lot on the customer side, we see a revolution. And being honest, the push for a society which is which takes into consideration climate impacts comes from the society. It's us. We need to buy the products, and you have seen it in other countries, in the US and now Europe and so on and so forth. Whom drives the revolution? That's us as a person. It's our investment in electrical cars, our investment in a renewable infrastructure, energy production system, heat pump, and so on and so forth. If we are doing it, there isn't any market that will stop us to protect our planet. I think that's just also on a personal note. So it's on us, and I see the long-term option is here. And to financial investors, I would say the financial opportunity is huge. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree, and I would say more that, you know, as an investor, financial crisis and changes in the economy are perfect time to make investments. So we see many opportunities. We see companies that are coming with more reasonable valuations. We see more companies. Just talking about data, we've been seeing in the last 4 years the investment in climate tech doubling every year. It reached 40 billion last year. In the first half of this year, it's actually 20 billion. So it means that we're skipping the same pace. Other investment of VC went down by 20%, 30% on crypto. So it seems that on climate, people still believe and still have the need to invest. And what we're seeing is more interesting than that is that although the amount stayed the same, the number of early stage companies that are being introduced almost doubled. So that's a great indication that we're seeing bottom-up development of pipeline of companies that are bringing new solutions. And for us as investor, I think it's very good news. I think we should be more patient with the time it would take them to grow and mature. It seems like late-stage investment is being tried a little bit, but I think in terms of being patient in climate tech, this is the first thing that I would advise any investor: be patient with climate tech.
Yeah. But both of you are basically saying that climate tech is recession-proof, almost, right? We're seeing a lot of government funding and a lot of optimism and a lot of growth for early ventures. You know, every economic downturn leads to growth in new entrepreneurs entering the space. They're willing to take a risk. They're willing to leave their jobs. Sometimes they're being laid off. So we're seeing that as well. But you talked about our personal responsibility, right? You talked about that we are the market creators. We create the demand, right? We can build a home with sustainable materials, or we can pressure our pension funds to open green financing options and solutions. What do you're coming from one of the leading countries in the world right now on climate actions. What are your insights from Germany right now?
Yeah, definitely Germany is a leading country, but I don't like the notion with leading countries here and there. I think the topic is a global problem we have, and we have to take responsibility for each other. And I think Europe is doing greatly with providing a lot of funding for startups. They topped up their investments into the venture capital ecosystem and so on and so forth. That's a great help for Idan, for you, for me, for other venture capital firms. The Israeli government is doing hugely helping climate tech startups and so on and so forth. That's the right step. But I think the next step we have to achieve is not tackling the topic on a national level. We have to take it on a global level. What we do with continents like Africa, South America, and so on and so forth, how we help them to decarbonize their system. And isn't it the better option to decarbonize now Africa and then the last mile in Europe or in other continents? That are the questions and the topic we should focus on right now. I think Germany, Europe does greatly. US, the new news are also great. We'll see, and I think we are aligned. I think globally, I would say we are all aligned. We wanted to achieve. The question is find the right way, the right pace to achieve it, and find our way of implementing it. And I'm absolutely confident, looking at you, and also the next generation. I'm a bit older, but my daughter has already set up the second climate tech business. First, it was sustainable clothes. Now is more about security for women at night at streets. So there's happening a lot.
Idan?
Yeah, I think it's when I'm sitting here as a venture investor, I think my responsibility is to funnel more funds from the institutions like my bank and other institutional investment towards climate. And the more that we can do that, I think we'll achieve our goal. And we have to think globally and to invest locally, right? So our fund, we're investing in Israel, in Europe, in US. You're doing the same. I think the global approach is here to stay, and we should take into advantage the government support that we see in Europe, and we should bring the money to whatever place is needed, and wherever we have the technology and the advancement in innovation to use that money. And on a personal note, I think that our responsibility is to think more about the way that we consume what we eat, what we dress, the way we drive, and make decisions that on aggregate create demand for sustainable solutions.
Yeah, definitely. I think a step further from the individual, there's the community, right? I think in Israel we have millions of people who are saving pension money funds. We're talking about 2.3 trillion shekel in Israel, and there is no green pension route. Like, we cannot impact how we invest our money for the future, which is insane, right? We're investing our money, building our future in planet-wrecking technologies. That is just unbelievable. And we're talking about people, I met these institutional investors, people like us, and they're still stuck in this old paradigm and understand that this might happen in the future. So this change has to happen now, and I think that if we're talking about ourselves, we have the power. Right here in the room, there's probably 500 million shekel in pension money, right? 500 million shekel. That is insane. We should call our pension agents and tell them what we need to make this change. So I think that is critical. When we're talking about building a climate tech fund, each of us has their own mini fund back home. So we need to understand how we're using that, whether it's for investing in public sector companies or even supporting early stage startups that are available here. 700 companies and 130 of them are presenting. But we're a bit early on our schedule, which is refreshing. And what I want to do is open up 3 questions from the crowd. I know that maybe the production here is going to hate me, but is there any appetite for question, guys, for the team? So maybe 3 questions. Any hands, anyone? Or we're going to just finish early and move to the next? Anyone? You have really fantastic people from HSBC and from Future Energy and myself here. Okay, so I want to say no questions on climate tech funding. Maybe they're just going to get everything is going to come at LinkedIn. So thank you. It's a pleasure being here, and I think we're going to see each other next time in PLANETech 2.
Thank you, Itamar.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.